It's like taking a piece of duct tape and rolling it around your hand and trying to get the lint off your shirt.
Man, we're making some serious progress. When you can relate the super technical racing to picking up the lint on your T-shirt, big time.
The following is a production of Dirty Mo Media.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Bridesmaid version of Action's Detrimental. I'm Denny Hamlin, driver of the number 11 Toyota Camry for Joe Gibbs Racing and co-owner of 2311 with Bubba Wallace and Tyler Reddick, the brake rotor guys this weekend. My co-host, Jared Allen, Jared D. Allen, if you're looking him up. I mean, the guy is getting so much fanfare now. Jared, how are you feeling? I mean, I feel like you need your own hero cards now.
I try to just lay low at the racetrack.
Yeah, sure he does.
I mean, I don't need my own hero cards. Definitely.
Are you hearing now? Hey, purple vest guy.
Yeah, it's the cheers or chants, whatever, are growing increasingly over the last couple weeks.
It's good. People are tuning in.
Nothing was as North Wilkesboro was. I mean, we need security for that one.
We can work on your own detail. We can. It's we're coming off Gateway. What was supposed to be a hot, steamy weekend in Gateway, I didn't think it was very hot.
It was 100%.
Wow. Even remember when we walked in the bus on Saturday morning, I was just like, wow, this is not bad at all. And you're like, God, are you kidding me? It's so hot.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't typically get bothered by heat as much as some people. It's
built
very interesting. Oh, whatever. Yeah. No, I mean, just kind of recapping last week. That was a tough week for me physically, for sure. My trainer. He was my guardian of my recovery. He was making me get in sauna 10 minutes, do a little quick workout, try to get stuff flowing, and then get back in the sauna, then go up in the ice plunge and hang out in there. So we did that for 3 straight days. Starting on Wednesday, I didn't want to do any of that. I had 2 massages. All that definitely helped.
How long does it typically take to get over something like that when you're in a wreck?
Well, I think that for me, that it definitely reminded me, and I told Chase this, that like, that's a reminder how old I am. I was like, I can't go through much more of that. Like it was massive. It really was. And you never like to learn through real life being a crash dummy, but there are some things that I noticed that we could do better on the safety side too, that we worked on for Gateway. So, I think it's water under the bridge for sure. And I think we were ready to move on and go compete for a win at Gateway, which I thought after practice, we really were going to have a great shot at it. I thought when the track was sunny and hot, man, I just thought we had the field covered in practice. And unfortunately, a little bit of temperature change and things change a lot with these cars.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I guess for you then, if you're saying you had the field covered for sunny conditions, we had none of that. We had a wreck on lap 5, caused a caution, and then immediately after, right, so under the same caution, we had a lightning hold that lasted for 2 hours and took this race into the nighttime. It was like a Coke 600, but 300 miles instead.
Yeah, and I made a comment to you, or you made a comment first after the race saying, well, man, that turned one of the shortest races, or maybe it was John, our bus driver, said, man, it took one of the shortest races into the longest race. And I was like, it's actually not that short because people think, 300 miles, this is going to be a quick race. Well, you have to base it off of the mile per hour that you run at the racetrack. So when you think about it, in a 400-mile race at, say, Kansas, right, our average speed's probably in the high 170s, 180s. Here, I don't know the numbers, but I'm going to guess 150-ish, somewhere in that range. So we're running 30 less miles per hour when we are running. So we're running 240 laps here at this racetrack where we're running 33, 34 seconds. Well, Kansas, we're running 30 seconds or maybe 31 seconds. So, and it's only 20 more laps. So it's kind of deceiving when you look at it's a 300-mile race and think, well, it's short. Well, it's not because, like Richmond, 400 laps there oh my gosh, because of the average pace and it's slow, it takes forever.
So, how do they come up with the laps or the miles for each individual? I always thought it was relative, where it's like, okay, we have a 3-hour window. We want this race to fit in it. Boom, this is the math equation.
Yeah, that's probably what they do. TV has a window which they like to see as far as, okay, well, they use the average speed.
Right.
And they say, all right, we bake in a few, some cautions and stage breaks and whatnot, and we think that the race will take X amount of time. Well, of course, that doesn't include rain delays. They don't plan on rain delays.
Right.
You can't do that. But the thing is, with these high straightaway speed, low speed corner tracks, once you get a caution inside 50 to go, it's just going to keep coming. It doesn't matter if it's Martinsville, Indy road course, where it could be Watkins Glen. Now, on road courses, they tend to let things go a little bit more because you've got a minute to clean the track up before the leaders get back around. But yeah, cautions definitely breed cautions at tracks like this.
All right, well, before we get to Gateway, let's go back a little bit because we had some midweek news before Gateway. The first of which is that NASCAR announced that the championship race is going back to Phoenix in 2024. So the next 2 seasons, obviously this one and the next one, championship will be decided at Phoenix.
Yes, I mean, I like it because I like the venue. I mean, I'm partial to that area. I like the racetrack. If we could fix the tire a little bit there, I think that it gets a bad rap because I think it has a not so good tire at that racetrack. And so I think it always sells out. Fans always come in a big way to that race. It's hard for me to, I mean, where else are you going to go in November, right?
That's why fans obviously want this to move around. I think that's the common,
fair.
What they're looking for. But I think it's harder than that, right? Because again, what you just asked, where are you going to go in November? You don't have too many options.
You don't. I mean, when you look at the average temperature of the first week of November, I don't know, anywhere kind of above North Carolina. I mean, you can have some cold North Carolina early Novembers, but usually it's okay. You just want to have a good place. Like, that's why Homestead Miami was such a great venue for the championship finale. It was always 80-some degrees, and it was beautiful.
Yep.
Same thing when you go to Phoenix during that time. It's beautiful weather, and again, you're getting fan support there. So why wouldn't you? But I get it from a competition standpoint where, hey, we're keep going back to the same place. The racing hasn't been spectacular there. I understand both sides of that argument.
Yeah, if the racing was really good at Phoenix, I don't think we'd have any arguments about this.
Agree. But there's things we can do to fix that. I mean, if you look at, generally speaking, the race and how it went, reminder to all the folks out there that this is what we raced here this weekend was the same tire we race at Gateway, Richmond, North Wilkesboro, and Phoenix. This tire does not have a good record. And it just shows, I mean, think about this. North Wilkesboro, the most abrasive surface we have on our schedule, and we ran the same tire there that we ran here at Gateway. That tire is so durable and wears so little at, a track like North Wilkesboro that then they put it on Gateway. It's not going to wear at all, which it didn't. Like, the left side tires just did not have any wear at all. So it's also scheduled to be, was scheduled to be our Loudon, New Hampshire tire. I think they need to scrap this tire personally and just go with whatever the new development tire they have for New Hampshire. So they went up there and tested after Goodyear came to us and says, we get it. We know the tires are too hard. We were very conservative first week. If you've heard the previous podcast, you've heard me say this before, but we've got a new short track tire now. Let's just go ahead and implement it at all those other racetracks because this tire it's not him. That's for sure. It's not him.
Yeah, this is episode 18 or something, more tire woes, right? Every episode seems like there's something about tires. So how does this conversation evolve?
It's too good. Let's give Goodyear credit. These tires don't blow out If they were on your street car, they would last about 25 years, or at least. So they build great tires for reliability, but it's just for competition standpoint. You're gonna have to have more lap time fall off. I always come in after the bus. You see me, I go straight to the scoring monitor to see how did my lap time stack up versus the field. I've got a nice graph. I got nice data and all inside my bus where, like, when I watch Xfinity race, watch a truck race, I can constantly monitor different lines on the racetrack and how that equates to lap time. And so I think that it really is telling when I look and the entire field is all in the same second bracket. Like, even when you would say, let's just say the 9 car was terrible, okay, running 20-something, he was still in the same band of lap times that all of us were, even the guys that were up front. But once it gets strung out, it's just everyone falls off at the same rate of speed because it's a tire heat thing, not a wear thing. So you just cool your tires right back off, and then, bam, you can make another run at it. So I'd love to see Goodyear just scrap this tire and say, we're not going to run this tire anymore. It's not it for sure. And go with that new developmental tire. And I looked at it. It's a gain. Let's not, oversell too much. I talked to Christopher Bell, who did the test, and he was like, it runs faster on the short end, and it does fall off a little bit more on the back end. Not a ton, but it's a couple tenths. Listen, a couple tenths could go a long way in competition. So just hope we're continuing to work on the short track tire, because I don't think this was the intermediate package, people. So this is not the short track package, which I'm good with that, because this track has long straightaways. You want to have the ability to draft up to the car in front of you, and it just didn't seem like the corners, you lose so much in the corners here that it takes the entire straightaway for you to suck back up and get to the car that's in front of you. And by the time you get there, bam, you got to take another corner. You lose all your time again. So that's what makes IndyCar so great at Indy, is because the straightaways are long. They got super long drafts, and then they make slingshot passes at the end of the straightaway because it's a timing thing. And when they're on new tires, they can run closer to each other in the corners, which is why you see after a while things string out. Then passing becomes tougher. But let's do it, Goodyear. Let's put this new Loudon tire on all of our short tracks from here on out.
Right, because surely this is all predictable, right? If you have X tire, this tire you just ran, we're just going to call it X tire. You ran that North Wilkesboro, which is an abrasive surface, as you said. Which means any track going forward is going to be less abrasive, and it didn't work at North Wilkesboro. So
right.
Just throw it out altogether, and anything new.
You're no racing scientist, and it seems pretty simple to you, right?
Yeah, it just can't be worse than what you just had. So
it's just, I look at the Gluck polls, right? Shout out to our boy Jeff Gluck and his polls, because it's a pretty good telling story, right? Gateway right now is at 63%. Was it a good race? Richmond was 80%. I'm not sure why Richmond was 80%. Kyle Larson won it, but I don't know how he won it. Maybe it was the end of the race. I'm not really sure. Let's not crap on Richmond. Home track, love it. So, but let's average them out. You got 63% currently for Gateway, 80% for Richmond. North Wilkesboro, 49%. Phoenix, 44.8%. I don't know what Phoenix has been in other races as well, but
I can't imagine it's been very high.
I can't imagine it's very high, right? So you average all that out.
It's 50-50.
Yeah, it's low 60s, probably percentage-wise. That's not it. That's not it. We need to have more lap time variability. I'm going to keep saying it till we get it. But it just, track position was a big deal. You saw it in the truck race as well. Zane Smith, I was very intrigued to watch how that strategy played out. He stayed out on 50-lap lefts. He took rights, and I watched, and he ran like 10 qualifying laps in a row once he got out front. So it's just a thing where they recognize there's just not enough tire wear to put on 4 tires, and we knew it. I knew I had my shot to win, and that was my pit crew gets me out front of the guys that pitted. Kyle Larson stayed out. and he controlled the restart, so I had to take the inside lane. I ran right beside him down the front stretch, stayed beside him in the corner. I didn't clear him off the corner, and I'm like looking up, and there's the 8 car pushing him. I'm like, God dang it. 8 car gets around me now because the 5 pulls down in front of us in turn 3, and then the 8 gets on the outside of him. And then I knew right there, I was like, race over. I mean, there just wasn't going to be a pass for the lead. And I don't know that there was after one lap on the restart.
No, there was not. At least not while Kyle Busch was leading.
Hey, guys, I have some Phoenix polls from last year. The first race was 70% yes, they liked it. The second race was 28%.
Oh.
That was the championship race?
Yes.
Gosh, dang it.
And then the previous year, trying to find Phoenix here.
I mean, it's a great sports
Phoenix
town.
2 was 80%.
The championship
I
race.
think
And
a
Phoenix
lot of
1 was 63%.
Yeah, so it's all over the board. So that tells you that a lot of times it comes down to who won the race. Was it a green, white, checkered? Like, because if it goes green, there ain't much. There ain't much there. There really isn't. Again, because if there's any lap time fall off, it comes from tire heat, not tire wear. It needs to come from tire wear.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear. I just can't remember leaving Phoenix recently thinking, man, that was a good race.
Yeah. But, I mean, let's think about it from the sports town.
It's
The
great.
track is
amazing.
great.
Great
The
fan
amenities
turnout.
are great.
Yep.
The it's sold out even before it was a championship race. It's a great place. It just, it's not aerodynamics. Oh my gosh, I can't say it enough. Let's stop fiddling with the aerodynamics on these racetracks and fix the rubber.
14 car hit with massive penalty this week. 120 driver and owner points, 25 playoff points, 6-week suspension for crew chief John Klossmeyer, and $250K fine for a counterfeit underwing part, and they will not appeal it.
Yeah, and you heard Chase Briscoe say, man, we're fortunate it's not worse than that. So I think you kind of have it there where, more than likely, I think someone probably knew. It's hard to speculate because you're not in that building, but somebody was sweating bullets when that car got taken to R&D. They were just like, oh, boy, because they take apart. I mean, our 45 car, when they took it, they took a picture of it, and it's just a bunch of parts laying on a garage floor. It's like they go through everything. It is very thorough investigation, but it's what we need in our sport. NASCAR needs to continue doing this for sure because it helps. It really helps the integrity of our sport stay true to what it's supposed to be, and that's everyone running legal. And you just don't know when your number might get drawn. They did say at the beginning of the year that every car will go to the R&D center at some point. Now, I think that if you have cars that are dominant, maybe they need to go multiple times. Make sure you get everyone at least once. But then, you don't want to have, let's just say the 11 team. Well, we've already gone through there, so now we can start to push it, because we're not going to go back. You always got to have a chance that you're going to go back there. That would keep all of us in line for sure.
Yeah, this seems super consistent so far this season, NASCAR issuing out these penalties, which makes me think, what is there possibly to gain from something like this? Knowing that your car could go to R&D, it doesn't sound like this is very difficult to find.
It seems dumb enough that it was a error in on the team's part. Like it wasn't supposed to be on. I mean, I don't know. It just seems dumb enough to where you would think, well, they wouldn't surely be that dumb. Like the
car wasn't running very good to begin with, so
yeah. I mean, a lot goes into that, but it makes their argument seem a little bit more legit to me that it was just a quality control error. But it doesn't matter from an NASCAR standpoint.
Right.
They're not there to manage your company. They're just there to say what's right and wrong.
Right. Now, another question following up on that is that if NASCAR takes the 14 car and they find this, or any car for that matter, they find something wrong with it, is there a way, or should they be able to then go take the 4-car or the teammates' cars and look for that same part on those cars, or is that just not possible?
It's possible, but not realistic. By the time they find that stuff on the 14 car, the 4 car is also in pieces or whatever, and it's on the race shop floor. Like, they immediately after they get it back from the racetrack, they'll rescale it, check all the points, make sure everything's still in line. They'll post it, which means that they'll check it over to see quality control, has everything stayed in place, check out their processes, see how they could get better there. And then they'll also back it up versus what NASCAR's data or scan was of the car, and then they'll check it post-race to see has things moved or whatnot, so they can help their processes and whatnot. But it's by then the car's in pieces, and you'll never. If it was a 14, they'd be like, "Yeah, the NACA, you want to see that? It's over there." You know what I mean? So it wouldn't work like that, and you can't hold them and say, "All right, well, we're checking the 14. Y'all don't tear it apart or leave it frozen until we're done with the 14."
Right.
Because, like, honestly, is it just on the 14 car? Unlikely, right? Usually it's whatever's on one's on multiple. But that's speculation. It's really hard to say. But you would assume so. But you can't hold them because we need these cars and parts. We don't have the cars that we used to. We don't have 14 cars per car number. We have 7. And at some teams, they don't, with wrecks and things like that, you're probably lucky to have 6 per car number. So you got to turn that car around pretty quickly.
If you had more cars, though, could you force teams to hold a car until Wednesday before tearing it down?
Sounds expensive. I'm out on that. I'm not buying more cars.
How can they say it's a quality control if it's a counterfeit part? That's like spending money and they're like, that's a counterfeit 20. You're like, oh, quality control. Like,
oh, I didn't mean to have that in my wallet.
Like, how did you have the counterfeit part in the shop to begin with?
Counterfeit could mean multiple things, though, right? I mean, we haven't seen the part. We need to see it. Because did they attempt to put serial numbers on it? Official stickers? If they did, then yikes. That's intent. If it's a 3D printed part that they didn't attempt to make it look real, then maybe that's a quality control issue. So I think you don't know until you see the part. You got to see that they intend to deceive your eyes when you looked at it. Or was it just flat out someone picked up the wrong piece and put it on the car? It's hard. Again, that's really hard to do, especially for a company like Stewart-Haas. But you just never know. It's hard to speculate.
Is there anything to gain from like printing a fake part as like a dummy piece? Like, oh, let's see what this looks like here. And then when we get the real part, we'll take it off and.
Sure. For a company like Stewart-Haas that has a ton of CNC machines and whatnot, you could use it for various things. You could pick cars. They just posted pictures of their 2 pick cars. Well, you don't want to go out and spend a bunch of money off the shelf, because if you want to build a legit next gen car, it's going to cost you about $300,000 all in, where they can go manufacture all those parts for much cheaper within their own building, but it has to be used for off-track things, show cars. It could be a lot of things.
See, now that makes me think that it was just a quality control issue.
See, it could sway you either way.
Yeah. All right, moving on to this weekend and all the races. Let's start up in Portland, and you watched that race on TV. What did you think?
Yeah. I mean, it was interesting. Just an interesting course layout. Like, I never really paid attention to the first Portland race, but I did this one because it just the timing worked out where I wouldn't do anything. So I was watching on the bus the Portland race, and I was like, all right, well, no one ever pulled away. Like, the way the course kind of goes around, it seemed like whoever was leading was kind of holding up the next 4 cars in line. You thought the Creed had it, but it was like, the 20 car looked the best, but just never could get the lead without contact. And then, once he got the lead, it seemed like guys would run him down. And so it was an entertaining race from my standpoint. Just very methodical how some of the corners are. It's just like you were always turning and bending, not many straightaways at that racetrack. So Lots of contact, it looked like. Parker Clearman, he was going for it there at the end. To give Parker, too, some credit, his car would not, as you saw it, if you watch it on TV, his car was leaning a lot. So it means like they had, very little, bar in the car to keep it level. And, probably very, very soft rear springs so that picks up the left front tire, picks up the right front tire, every corner, sharp corner. And you do that to keep forward bite in the car, which is forward bite means when you hit the gas, when the tires get old, hot, and slick, your car launches a little bit better. The downside to that, though, is that it doesn't corner quite as good because you don't have all 4 tires on the racetrack. And in restart situations, you're more apt to lock up tires. And so while he was going for it, and I give him credit for that, I don't know that he had a car to go for it. And at the time, he's not thinking about, well, my car's not really capable of this, and it's not been really strong on restarts all day. But he saw an opportunity to charge the bottom. He wasn't going to lift until the car on the outside of him lift. But his car, as soon as you hit the brakes hard and you turn the wheel on a car that soft, you're going to lock up a tire, and that's what he did, and kind of wiped out the first 3 there. And then here comes Cole Custer. Hey, thank you. Third car on the inside line cleans it out. But maybe Custer had about one of the best cars as well. He was pretty strong, had to go to the back. He got spun. So it was an entertaining race. Usually always is when it comes to Xfinity.
As the content person on this show, can you pull up Chandler Smith's Twitter there on your laptop?
I don't know. Can I? I'll have to look it up. Here.
You have not seen this yet. Man, we knew that was going to happen.
Gosh darn it.
Said it before the show. Don't spill the coffee.
I'll look it up here. Just spilled my coffee all over the place. Those who don't know, too, I'm a new coffee guy. Not till 2023 did I have my very first cup of coffee. And now, of course, I'm stuck. I have to.
What did I tell you when you hit your head on the chandelier?
Twice, by the way.
I did. I've had a bad morning. Leave me alone.
I said, don't spill your coffee.
It's fine. It's fine, people. All right, Chandler Smith.
Do you want to move that over a little more now, or are you going to put it back in the same spot?
I'm trying to keep it out of the camera. Leave me alone. All right.
Gosh.
Chandler Smith follows me. I'm gonna give him a follow back. Oh boy.
Are you sure about that? Let's see that in an instant replay.
So
Great.
good. So good.
Video. Oh, Chandler. Big dub. Big dub on the video. Oh, that's great. I don't know who helped him on the social side because, it's not easy doing this. That's why you're hired. But, great content there. That's fantastic. You can see Jeb kind of trying to do the old hammer.
Yeah.
The hammer.
Just make any contact.
Anything. Like, you're trying because the crew guys got in the middle of it. And next thing you know, when you're wrapped up, it's like, you just try to get any kind of gavel punch that you possibly can on someone. But that was awesome. I saw, I can't stop thinking about the video. Let's see that in an instant replay. I watched it from the beginning of when Jeb said that Chandler got into him. I saw it in the final turn. You saw Jeb run him down, then Chandler got into him again. They're both crossed up, and then Chandler finished him off in turn 3. I see Jeb's point. I do about, how many times did you attempt to wreck me and you finally just make sure you got it done? So I empathize a little bit with Jeb there, but the Chandler's video kind of makes me not really care.
Yeah.
So,
He wins. He wins the weekend on
yeah,
the video.
for sure. And Jeb was having a great weekend too. Like he was good during practice, and he kind of run the top 12 most of the day. So that it sucks for a team like his who's like grinding so hard. You sure it was a hard grind just for them to get out to Portland on time and for them to have a good solid day, kind of taken away at the end. God, that's racing, and it sucks so bad when that happens.
Yeah, you just mentioned there getting out to Portland. I think it was it Jordan? No, because Jeb races for Jordan Anderson's team. Someone's team, 2 haulers didn't make it out to Portland.
Tommy Joe
Martin's.
Yeah. And so you was kind of watching. He said that NASCAR was helping facilitate getting his haulers there to the track, and you saw him pull up on pit lane, and everyone else's team has got like their pit boxes set up and everything, and he's just rolling his cars in there. So, it's tough. It's tough on those teams for sure, and especially with the short week. I mean, ultra short week for them to have to go from a Monday race to a Monday night race of all things, and then haul ass to Portland right after.
All right, down to St. Louis for the Cup race. As we mentioned earlier, got 5 laps in, had a weather delay, 2-hour lightning hold, and during that lightning hold, your front tire changer lost a tooth.
A tooth, a lip, just about everything. I was sitting on top of the pit box, just kind of chilling, shooting the shit with Gabe Hart, and you just hear a loud, I was like, whoa, and then you hear him instantly say, I was like, uh-oh. And I guess the regulator bust. They were working on it, and even though it's turned off, you still got pressure in the line. So when it disconnected or bust or whatever happened, it flew out, hit him right in the face, and took out a tooth. And his upper lip was just kind of dangling there for a second. And the blood was profuse. Travis is just not doing well with it. And so I'm like thinking, oh my gosh, like I'm this is terrible for him, first of all, but then like I'm cursed. Like under red, we now lose a crew guy, but AJ, the man, he sucked it up, and they gave me their best weekend on pit road to date. So shout out to my 11 team for a great day on pit road. And he, I guess he's got to go to a plastic surgeon today to get the stitches out and then kind of redo his upper lip there.
Can you explain that to me like I'm 6? Because I have no idea what a regulator bust is.
Okay. The regulator is basically on top of the air bottles that are inside the pit cart. So the pit cart,
CO2 bottle.
so how you get air to the guns that change the tire is there's big bottles that are in the pit box.
Yeah.
And on top of that, there's a regulator. So you see, you regulate how much pressure basically comes through the line.
Yep.
Okay. So it's like a brass piece that you'll see.
Okay.
And so if they're turning on it or whatever, it could bust and break, and the next thing you know, the hose that's connected to the top of the regulator can fly off, and it's like, I don't know. You ever seen a...
So it's like a hose is not connected.
Yes.
Not connected to the...
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's just, whipping around.
Yeah.
Like it does that. So, but the end of the hose has a piece of metal on it, and that thing it whips around, hits you in the face.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so you paint the picture now a little better?
So you got to turn off that before you
and then you got to hit the trigger on the gun to get all the pressure out of the line.
Got it.
So it's like a water hose, right?
You got to get the water out before you... Got it.
Yeah. You gotta
We're learning.
hit the gun to get the water out on a garden hose, and you gotta hit the gun to get the air out. Which is why at the end of the race you'll hear them go, "Ring!" It's just they're getting all the air out of the pressure.
Got
Or
it.
pressure.
See, now I can relate to that. Now I get it.
Okay. So basically, a wild hose came and smacked him in the face, took out his tooth and upper lip.
Got it. Okay. Well, he stayed in the race and they did a good job on pit road.
Yeah, and also shout out to Michael Hicks, the 20 team, the 54 team, 19 team. They all came down and tried to help out our team, get all that fixed. And which for me, I was like, oh, we need another lightning strike because like we needed to buy time because we had to go get another part and retrofit it and whatnot. So, they definitely, we needed all the minutes we did of that rain delay or lightning delay.
This race was the 1 year anniversary of you and Chastain'd's mix up last year. Kind of had another one, not nearly as TV worthy, But him and Michael McDowell. McDowell had said, I guess this is what it means to get Chastain'd, because he got run up the track a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, listen, of all the people on pit road, I've said multiple times the person I'd least like to be in a scuffle with is Michael McDowell for sheer size and when he put Suarez on the hood of his car, like he's probably got some country strong to him. So, but yeah, I looked at the wreck. I guess you definitely could label it as a racing deal for sure, right? I mean, I think that Chastain made a 3-wide move into turn 1. Contact is inevitable at that point. So the 34 car, while he did not give the one a lot of room, he had no choice. It's either he goes up and makes contact with Joey, who's on 3 wide on the outside, to give Chastain room, or he just pinches Chastain and says, you really should be lifting here. So what happens is when you go down the straightaway and someone makes a last-minute dive bomb into 3 wide on the bottom, it's not a bad move, but you're putting the 2 outside guys in a very, very tough position where contact is almost inevitable because the middle guy cannot react enough to, I got to give you room, and then, well, sorry, whoever's on the outside. Like, you really put the middle guy in a spot where it's just 2 last minute. Contact's going to happen, and usually the middle guy's going to get the crap into the stick because he's either going to get spun by the inside guy, like what happened here, or he's going to go up and his right front's going to get in the 22's door, and he either gets spun that way. So while it's technically not Chastain's fault because, hey, I'm on the inside, I'm here, the late dive just makes it very difficult for the 2 outside parties to not get the crap into the stick.
Yeah, you kind of saw something similar at North Wilkesboro, also with Michael McDowell in the open race.
Yes, same kind of thing there. It's just I get it because it's the desperation of like, I see an opportunity to get a row worth of cars here on a restart, and because they know once we get 2 laps in, it's done. There is no more passing. So, I mean, NASCAR took more gear out of the cars again at this racetrack, which forced us to shift 1 more extra time per lap. We were running 4th only through 3 and 4, but since they took more gear out this time around, it was 1, 2, 3, 4. How many shifts is that? 8 shifts per lap, or is that 16 shifts per lap? I don't know. Either way, it's a lot. It's a lot of shifts per lap. And which is why passing also is difficult because, like, I get a run on somebody coming off the corner and bam, they grab a gear, bam, I lost my run. So it's just, man, if we can fix the tire and the shifting, we're going to be a much better place on these short tracks. But it's difficult when we keep dropping the gear out of the car because it's forcing us. It makes us have to shift to make lap time.
Is that why I was watching the race? And remember here, I don't have all the technical knowledge of being a race car driver. But watching before the cameras went down, watching your in-car camera when you were running 3rd behind Blaney earlier in the race, is that you could see you gaining on Blaney into the corner. It's like, oh, well, he just got a really good run on him. And then, vroom, Blaney's just gone on the backstretch.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what?
It is, because eventually I get in their wake. Eventually I have to run the same line as them. And then the gain that we make down the straightaway because of the draft just doesn't. It's interesting as draggy as the cars are, which means like by themselves, the straightaway speed that they have is so low. You would think we would be able to suck up down the straightaway and get bigger runs, but we just don't for some reason with this intermediate package. Maybe the spoiler's not big enough or whatever, but it is. It's just eventually we all have to run. Like, we're all searching around. You saw the track actually widen out. The reason the track widened out is because this tire just lays down greasy rubber. And so we're trying to find the least amount of grease. Like, and as the tires get hotter, the rubber lays down, and then we search for cleaner pavement, which is why we're chasing the racetrack up. While we're going up, the later the run gets, the higher it goes. But the problem is that under caution, we clean up all the rubber that's on the racetrack. If you look, the track will get really dark after a 30-lap run. Then watch it a couple laps during caution. It looks brand new and shiny and gray again. We've seen it many years at Dover, but now this racetrack, it does it right off, it does it, and it's a tire thing that it lays down rubber, but it lays down rubber that gets picked back up. So it's just greasy.
Is it getting picked back up because cars are running over?
Yeah, so your hot tires.
Under caution?
Yeah, yes. So instead of us going through the corners, sliding and continuing to lay down more rubber, I don't know that we're laying down that much rubber because they're not wearing. But anyway, our tires then are hot. So then it's like taking a piece of duct tape and rolling it around your hand and trying to get the lint off your shirt. So we're doing that, but with the track surface. We're constantly rolling, and it's picking up all that hot, greasy rubber and putting it back on the tire, which then is why you see us swerving so much to get all that back off of our tires. Because if we didn't clean our tires, we'd go into turn one on a restart and just go dead straight.
Yeah, man, we're making some serious progress. When you can relate the super technical racing to picking up the lint on your T-shirt, big time.
All right, thanks, Jared.
So that was Michael McDowell, Ross Chastain. That was beef number one. Not that big of a deal. But beef number two, Austin Cindric and Austin Dillon. And before the show started, you were really digging into this.
Well, only because some big accusations were thrown out there, right? From Austin Dillon, and again, I'm in the race car. I have no idea what's going on. These guys are racing for 13th and 14th. But I ran down here because I'm like, I got to get my car. I got to keep my computer charged because I want to see this on SMT. SMT is the data that I tweeted out last week, and I looked at it on SMT because AD has said publicly that it's the same as what happened. I mean, the easiest way is to kind of look at the two car from previous laps. Like, they're going down the straightaway, right? So he should be holding a steady wheel straight. And first thing I looked at before I looked at the steering, and it was like the two car, I was like, whoa, where's he going? Like, through the middle, like there was no room really between the 3 and the 47. Like, I didn't know where he was going anyway, even if he wasn't mad at the 3. But then I went back a few laps. I'm like, if it was intentional, why was he pissed? And then you look back several laps before, I think it's 6 laps before. It was during the quick cautions that we had. The 3 car, like, he pulled a slider, but it wasn't even a slider. He gave the 2 actually a fair amount of room. And then you saw the 2 go down the back straightaway and just kind of like rub up against the 3's door. And it was like, oh, wow, you were mad at that, I guess. And then he tried to put it in a hole that was not there. And then he turned left. Now, was it as much as Chase's or Bubba's? No. But down the straightaway, he turned left on the 3. Now, it looks different, and it definitely does not look as egregious because the 47 car is there. So this 47 car caught the 3 car. It would have been a head-on impact if the 47 car wasn't there. The 47 said after the race that he thought he didn't quite understand why the 2 hooked the right rear in the of the 3 car. And you go back and you look at it, and it's like, oh man, like that doesn't look good. Is it as egregious? No. But there's no reason to be turning left there. I mean, especially you're 1 week after the whole Chase thing. NASCAR is on a heightened alert. Like, that's just a lapse in judgment by Cindric. What are you doing? Like, if you're mad at him, just go in the next corner and bump into the back of him. Like, you don't have to wreck him, but like, just bump them. By the way, you've already shown your displeasure before. You've already done it once, and now he just took it to another level, and it's just I don't know why these guys aren't learning that NASCAR has drawn a line in the sand. So what are you doing this for? Why are you even making it close? It doesn't look good. I don't like it for sure.
Can you see Austin Dillon's traces? Is he staying straight down the straightaway there? Because in the replay in the video, right? Because people don't have access to this SMT data. In the video, there's a very brief moment. It looks like Austin. I guess both people are called Austin, named Austin. So Cindric, the 2-car, cuts down to the left very briefly, but also it looks like AD is just drifting up the track ever so slightly, which I think leads to Clint Boyer arguing that this looked like a racing deal.
Yes, and I see both sides of it. I do, but if you didn't know, you would say it's a racing deal. But the 2 cars clearly miffed at the 3 car. So, and you shouldn't be turning left down the straightaway. I don't agree with that. And trust me, I'm just sensitive to it because I know that if the 3 hits head on there, it hurts. It's not a good thing. And he would have right entering turn 1 there if the 47 car wasn't there. So will NASCAR look at, they said they're going to look at it. Do they take the severity of the incident into factor? I'm sure they will. But certainly there was some intent behind it. Now, I don't know that he was like, all right, I'm going to right rear hook the 3 into the fence here. But that was the result.
Well, what does the eye test say? What is your gut on how NASCAR responds to this? Because, as you said, there is a line in the sand, but this incident seems way closer to that line than the previous 2 incidents.
I wish I had a better answer for you. I don't know. This would be one of those. It would be one of those where it's like, I see what you were doing here. I see what you were trying to do. But the result was the same. So, while it may not be as egregious and the wreck was not as severe, the intent was there. So it's a tough spot. It is a tough spot. I don't know. My gut says they won't do anything. But is that right? I don't know that that's right.
Is there room to make officiating calls on this during the race since you have that SMT data?
They could, but man,
is that better than?
I mean, I'm sitting here, Jared, 24 hours later, and I'm still I don't know, right? I mean, you just don't know. And then they're trying to get this race going. It's running way over time anyway. They're just trying to do the best they can to get this show on the road. You can't hold up the race and just have it run us under caution because you're trying to officiate this. Now, if you had a designated person to it, first of all, they're gonna say, oh well, that's just a racing deal, right? But then you've got to hear AD saying, wait a minute, no, that's bullshit. Oh, so that means I need to look into this. It's just that takes a time and it's a process, which is why NASCAR doesn't hand out penalties till a day or 2 after because they got to take all the factors in play.
Well, speaking of SMT data, teams did not have it for a portion of this race as we lost power mid-race. They were under caution for quite a while. When you're in the car, obviously Chris Gabehart tells you, hey, I have no data on the pit box. I need you to give me as much information as possible. How does that change racing for you, or does it?
It doesn't change it a lot for me, but it definitely changed it for the teams. I saw where NASCAR or someone posted that this was a fiber issue that was outside the racing track. I know that Gateway actually had the lights blow out a few years ago, and so you're immediately thinking, oh, they got a grid problem or something. But it sounded like there was something outside of their control. It changes it for the race teams a lot, though. So, when you're making strategy calls, I saw Rodney Childers' comments. listen, he's like, I didn't have any SMT, no laps on tires or fuel. So he's trying to make a strategy call. Now, again, we're all in the same boat. But a lot of times when you make strategy calls, it's because you're looking at the list of, well, who's got tires? When's the last time they pitted? How many tires did they take? How many laps on fuel can they go? And you take all that information and you put it in a pot and you stir it up and you say, all right, here's the best move for me. And so when you're riding blind like that, you really don't know who's in front of you and what strategy they're on. So it won't make your call as informed as what it would be normally.
Now, hear me out. I'm reading Rodney's tweet right now, and all these things he's mentioning: no timing and scoring, no SMT, no laps on fuel or tires, no communication with engineers at the shop. All of that was extremely frustrating. Would racing be better if you didn't have that on a regular basis?
No, I don't think so. You can't go backwards, right? That's like saying, man, if we didn't have our cars so low to the ground and all the cars running the same speed, we'd have great racing. Well, what do you want us to say? All right, let's forget all the knowledge that we've learned. The communication back at the shop and engineers, so likely they're on some sort of intercom system with the shop. They each, a lot of the big teams have war rooms where they're looking at the race. They've got data and information, and they can give Rodney a heads up of, hey, the data shows or the simulation shows that we probably should pit here or not pit here or take two or fuel only. They give him an outsider's perspective, because if you ask any crew chief that's ever been suspended, they say, man, when you take me away from the racetrack, I've got so much more information. So they really rely on the guys that are not in the bubble of the racetrack to give them level-headed information. F1, they have it. Race teams have it. That's hard to make us go back on and say, well, we shouldn't be communicating, because telling people that...
Well, maybe not communicating, but if you had less data to go by, wouldn't teams be further apart in what they're doing?
Yes, but you're telling us to not have data?
I'm just hypothetically. So obviously, this is never going to happen. They're never going to take your computers away at the track and say, here, go race. But if they did,
it's not going to make that big of a difference. It really won't. Because it shows, even with the data that we do have, teams think strategies are different for them. Like, the 5 car, they stayed out. He was the only one that stayed out and took 2 tires on that pit stop. Well, he wasn't the only. There was others, but they got mixed into the field. We never took 2 tires throughout the day. We just didn't think it was right for us. It just, everyone's got a different answer to the same equation.
Brake rotors. This was another hot topic yesterday. Carson Hocevar, we'll get to that eventually. Carson Hocevar lost a brake rotor. Both your 2311 cars lost a brake rotor. And there's one other guy in the field that lost one throughout the day. But what is the cause of this?
It depends. Sometimes it can be too hot. Sometimes it can be too cold. You would think in the 2311's boat, it's hard to speculate. I've got my competition meeting there. 45 minutes. I got to get going. It's tough to say. Theirs was right. The 23s was right after restart, so you wouldn't think it'd be too hot. But was it after a red? You don't know, right? So I think every driver's process, or each team's process to either keeping their brakes hot or cold under caution is different. We just got to digest it. I don't know what their strategy was with tape for the brakes, whether they were too hot, too cold. I don't know. It's really hard for me to say because I'm not informed right here in the moment, but a lot of things could cause them to blow out. You would think down the long straightaways they would cool back off. So we saw it with the 4 car. They blew one last year. I think they blew a right rear, and he hit hard in turn 3. But, man, when you're jammed up behind people and you use, you got to think about it. We're going so fast down the straightaway, and we're using so much brake that it's something that's causing these rotors to explode. And also, remember, sometimes these teams are using different brake packages. So it's not a uniform brake package that we have to run at Gateway. You have a lighter weight intermediate version, or you have a short track version. and one weighs more than another. So as a team, you're kind of debating, well, do I want to have good braking performance or do I want to have less weight and be able to put the weight where I want it? So there's a lot of different options there for the race teams, and you just don't know what leads into the failures that we had.
Yeah, you mentioned after a red, there's a clip of Kyle Larson on Twitter slowly rolling forward during a red.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's pretty common. We do that. All the cars in the front, we would do that about probably every couple of minutes. So you just don't want the brake pads to lock into the rotors themselves. So the pad is that clamps down on the rotor that is spinning around on the wheel. If it sits there in one place, it doesn't happen that often, but sometimes it'll seat itself to that rotor. And then when you go back green, if you didn't slowly move, then you could have pad buildup on the rotor itself, and next thing you know, you have a vibration. So every few minutes, all of us in the top 10, we were all, doing the same thing. We would just creep forward a little bit after a few minutes, creep forward a little bit more, just to keep it moving.
Corey LaJoie filled in for Chase Elliott this week in the 9-car. Carson Hocevar ran Corey's 7-car, who Carson was running around the top 15 until he lost the brake rotor. What do you make of those guys? They're different days and their situations.
I thought Carson did a great job, a good opportunity for him, and it definitely, he's got a lot of good upside. He's definitely starting to run better in the trucks, and I saw he made some really good self-aware comments about himself this past week, and again, I think he's a very high talent, high ceiling type of driver. He really is, and he, not having any next gen experience or anything like that, going out there and running competitively is good. And it shows too that 7-car is pretty good. As far as I'm aware, and from the information I've been given, the 7, 77, and 47 are all on the same plan with Chevy. So I think that those three all get the same information. So technically, you would think that all three of those should run the same. Now, the 47's running better than all of them. So, but they probably have slightly more funding. Maybe they have a few more engineers or something that help make the data that they do get a little bit better. But I think they're all on the same engine plan from Hendrick, and they also get technical information as well. So, There you have it. It's not like, the 7's been awful. They've definitely taken a step forward this year for sure. But the 47's taken the biggest jump, and he had another great run going this weekend where he was going to finish in the top 10.
And then Corey LaJoie's day in the 9-car?
Obviously, not a great day for him. I feel bad for Corey because when you think about it, he probably had super high expectations for himself. And I think that it's not fair to judge based off of one race. That's just my opinion. I think that, listen, when I watched his car during practice, that thing was a handful. It's not like, that any of the Hendrick cars were a ball of fire by any means. Now, the 5, got better throughout the race. The 48, I think, probably was running about 12th, 10th, somewhere in that range throughout the race. That's what he was capable of. And then the 24 had good track position, and he was up front in the top 5 for most of the race. The outlier would be the 9. But the 9 practice was really bad. And even in qualifying, it was really bad. And you look at just how their car was running down the straightaway, it was just like, man, he's got his hands full for sure. So it's I didn't think it was a super strong track for Hendrick to begin with. So not the best, sample for Corey. But also, if you would ask Corey, he probably would say, hey, these guys are really good. Let's give them credit that, these are really good professional race car drivers out here. And like I said for a long time, these guys are pros, and it's hard to run up front week in, week out. That is just a challenge because everyone is so good. But I know that, certainly it was humbling for Corey, but I don't think that we should put too much stock into it because it was a very tough situation. And I think that, Corey still deserves to have another shot. And hopefully, he'll get that shot soon.
How difficult is it both as a driver and a crew chief of a car. When you're like, okay, you're the crew chief, you're gonna have this new driver this week. You got a couple days to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean,
Get
I
to
guess as a crew chief, you're probably just going to lean on your teammates' information from previous races. Now, again, Hendrick wasn't very good there last year either, so they didn't probably have a great notebook to lean off of. Then it relies on simulation, right? Then they've got to go in the simulator and try to, improve on their setup. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And as a crew chief, it's tough. I think that team's had 4 different drivers in their car through the first 14 races or 15
Right,
races.
that camaraderie between the driver and crew
Sure,
chief.
yeah,
is
it definitely matters for sure.
Yeah. And then Kyle Busch wins his 3rd race of the year, holds off on the 5 or so restarts at the end of this thing. It's having a good year.
Yeah, he is. He is and he isn't, but he is. It's like we were talking about after the race. It was just like, wow, he's got 3 wins. Like, that's very, like, I don't know why it just sticks in my head, kind of the poor runs that they've had. But when they're fast, he wins and he finishes really well. And so Kyle's just, again, he's probably needs to be on the Mount Rushmore of greatest drivers. Just, the numbers back it up. He is a great, elite, exceptional race car driver. And I'm noticing a trend, though, with that RCR in 18. Anywhere that Tyler Reddick ran well last year, they're fast. Anywhere that they struggled, they're not good. So there's something going on there that it's when Tyler ran up front, Kyle's going to be good. You could just bookmark it. And so maybe it's, it could be a sim thing. It could be a lot of different variables. But talking about Kyle's performance this weekend, it was first-class elite. I mean, he qualified on the pole. And even when he got put back in traffic, he could make up a couple spots and make speed. And then on the final, with that restart that was so crucial for me when I was the first car off pit road, he was the next car off pit road. It put him on the outside lane with Larson, and it was I knew the whole race came down to, can I clear Larson off of turn 2? If I can't, I'm and I was because I didn't clear the 5, and the 8's back there pushing him. So the 5 cleared me, and it was game over after that. And so he just was exceptional. He put himself in the right spot, and he just drove the wheels off of it. So I'm happy for Kyle. I think that I think this is a good career reset for Kyle, even though that, the last few years at JGR was some down years when you look at his expectations and what you expect him to do. But I think that, he's a good dude and a great dad. And obviously he's, doing a lot of racing with Brexton now, which I'm sure is, great for him and Samantha. They're loving life right now and winning races. So it's great for them. And, just envious of what he's able to do with no matter what car he's in. He's going out there and performing.
Here's Kyle's finishes starting with the Daytona. 19th, 1st, 14th, 8th, 10th, 2nd, 14th, 32nd, 21st, 1st, 21st, 35th, 7th, 22, 6th, 1st.
I saw a chart like that, but it was Kyle Larson's. Fox was doing it. The up, down. Because that's what all I remember, right? Is he either is content. And you know what? Be interesting to overlay. Somebody online did overlay it with Reddick's, how well he ran in the previous year at those tracks. Like, Kyle's running really good at Reddick run tracks last year, and whenever their setups were off, it's like they're having trouble correcting them for Kyle this year. So, but man, they got 3 wins, first 14 races, 15 races. How many? 14 or 15? Anyway, hats off to them. They're building playoff points. He's solid, man. He's making that organization better, and they're going to be tough to beat when it comes down to the end of the year.
I'm curious to what fans think, because watching the races now, when Kyle wins, it just doesn't feel the same.
Yeah.
When the M&M's car was winning, that was Kyle Busch. And now when he wins a race, I don't know. It's just a different feeling. He doesn't feel as dominant. I guess the stats are showing that because it's not every week that he's up front, but I don't know. It's just interesting.
It doesn't, right? It's the most undominant 3-win in the first handful of races that you've ever felt. And that's what it feels like to me. But he's finishing them off. Like, it was 1 win Dega, Super Speedway. So,
yeah.
I mean, that's different in itself. That was when I think he was supposed to come in and pit. He didn't and won. So, I don't know. And then he had the dominating last run at California, where you remember Reddick was super fast at California. So, it is. It's Jekyll and Hyde for sure, but it's different. It just takes a little getting used to, certainly with him and the 8 car versus the 18.
We have one Dear Denny this week, and this is what the majority of fans wanted to know yesterday, is what do you and other drivers do during delays, lightning delays, rain delays, whatever kind of delay it may be?
It was interesting this week because we'd only run 1 green flag lap. So there was not a whole lot to talk about with the team. You trying to just, look around and figure out, well, let me see the restart. Let me see how it went. I felt pretty good about my car at the time because it was hotter. My car was like, I think I'm going to be pretty good here. And then as soon as it cooled off and everybody was able to run so much gas, it was like, just level out the playing field. But what I usually do is it usually happens after a certain amount of time in the race. I'll just go back and, I'll watch SMT like every other driver will, and I'll just kind of figure out what I need to do better as a driver and what I need more out of my car to do the things that I think I need to do. So I'll do that. But then, this week it was not much. I was watching the end of the golf tournament, watching IndyCar, and that was it. What
about the situations where you can't get out of the car? You're staying in the car.
Well, I said on the radio during the red flag, because they were like, we're not sure if it's an actual 30-minute hole or are we just sitting here for the lightning. I said, man, at my age, it's easier just to sit in here and roast than it is to get in and out of the car. Like, especially as kind of sore as I've been, like, I'd rather just sit in there and bake versus getting in and out. And but when they said, well, it's going to be 30 minutes, I'm like, all right, I guess I'll do it. Like, back in the day when we used to test all the time, I'd be the guy that I'll sit in there for 8 hours. I mean, I didn't like get in and out of the car. I'll just sit in there, take little naps in between changes and stuff, which, gosh, I'm glad we don't have those days now.
You ever worried you wouldn't wake up? Like you miss your alarm? Someone have to wake you up?
While I'm in the car?
Yeah.
No, because they drop the jack and next thing you know, like, hey, it's time to go.
Okay.
But it's interesting. I would go from like napping. I mean, I fall asleep in the middle of a test and they drop the jack and they're like, they're, all right, let's go. And I'm like, I wake up and next thing you know, I'm going into corner 160 and I'm like, all right, let's go. And it's just, we can turn it on that quick.
I noticed you had a signed IndyCar helmet upstairs.
Marco gave me his, so I'm going to have to send him, not have to, but I'm going to send him one of my FedEx helmets. So yeah, the first piece of the puzzle has been delivered.
Is that your first? Have you done a helmet swap with someone before?
Yeah, Tony.
Where do you keep them?
In his retirement year. They're spread out. I think most of the exchange helmets I have are down in near the walkway before you get to the basketball court.
Oh, I thought those were just all yours.
Nope.
Denny, why don't you ask Jared how he didn't realize whose helmet that was? Ask him about the conversation we had this morning.
I walked past it.
Mm-hmm.
I was printing out these sheets and I walked past it. I was like, oh, there's Connor Daly's helmet. I was like, oh no, that signature actually looks kind of like Chase Elliott's signature. No, it's an IndyCar helmet though. And it's like, oh, it says Marco on the side. That must be Connor Daly's sponsor from the Indy 500. Then I walked down here and I told Travis, I was like, oh, Denny must have got Connor Daly's helmet. Signature didn't really look like his though, but it said Marco on the side. So I guess that's his sponsor or something.
Hey, Jared,
Andretti?
Were you part of this podcast last week when I said I had to give Marco a helmet?
It all clicked, but after a couple minutes.
He didn't say Mark. This entire time, I'm like, maybe Marco Andretti. He's like, well, it did say Marco on the side. I'm like, yeah.
Wow.
Jared. I thought it was a sponsor.
Oh, sheesh. All right, I got work to do, so let's wrap this up.
That's it. We're going to Sonoma next week.
The bracket challenge. We got the finals.
Challenge. Yep.
Keselowski versus Byron in the finals. My friends in my golf league, everyone has everyone out except for me. I'm not winning in our little side league that we set up, but I'm the only one that had Byron going the whole way. So I have a chance to take the title if Byron beats Keselowski this week. So they made it to the finals of the bracket challenge. Keselowski beat Bubba this week.
And the dream.
Oh my gosh, what a backdoor cover that was. Keselowski multiple laps down, 7 cylinders. Bubba blows a rotor with 6 to go. Oh man, heartbreaker. And then
the dream team of Bowman Berry is out.
yeah, Byron beat Bowman. That was
Bowman Berry.
The Bowman Berry. All right, you're going to give Barry the credit for the first week, right?
The first 2 weeks.
Yeah, you're right. First 2 weeks, Barry carried the torch. So, all right, who do you think wins that? Keselowski versus Byron?
It's hard to bet against William Byron.
I agree, especially road course. I mean, Keselowski's really good, but you would just think that Byron's typically qualifies pretty good, and then it's going to be tough to pass there. So, yeah, looking forward to it, Sonoma. I'm going to go work on my road course skills this week and see if I can't close the gap to where I need to. But all right, got a busy week. Make sure you give us a follow.
Like, follow, subscribe, rate or review at Dirty Mo Media, at Denny Hamlin, at Jared D. Allen. That's it. That's all I got.
That's it. We'll see you next week.
Check out Dirty Mo Media on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram.